I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
On social media.
More alarming, some media outlets
true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 WorldNet Daily Live, we are here reminding you to subscribe to WND Newsroom on Rumble. It's free. Please head over, download the app, and you can follow along on Rumble. The attention that we've been receiving on Rumble is tremendous. So thank you very much to those who are there. And thank you for joining us here today. I am back again in studio here with Josh Turnbow. So good to see you, my friend.
We should do this more. I like it.
Yeah, well, I guess I'd have to move down here and move into your this is a big enough table too. I could just like slide right underneath here.
Absolutely.
Anyway, as always, we have Elizabeth Farah with us, Joe Kovacs, and I'd like to also welcome Andy Schlafly here, contributor to WorldNet Daily. Andy, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, yes, very good. Well, we have to get rocking and rolling here because the fake news machine is in full power, folks. And I like to look at it as like the Death Star is like at full operation, right?
Full operational power.
Yeah, full operational power.
It's about to. Well, it's been firing.
It's been firing, yes. Yeah. And Joe, you have an article up at WorldNet Daily highlighting what I think this is beautiful. This is absolutely this kind of gives me a lot of hope that the Stephen Colbert audience would react the way they did. Joe, walk us through what happened with this with Stephen Colbert.
Well, Caitlin Collins is a news anchor on CNN. And as all news anchors seem to do these days, they get on late night comedy shows because they think they're funny. And Stephen Colbert is interviewing her, and she's rambling on about how Trump was taken aback by the choice of Kamala Harris to be the presidential candidate because he was gearing his message for Joe Biden for the whole election. And she said he's having to rethink that now that he has a new target in Kamala. Or Kamala, as is the correct pronunciation, supposedly. Anyway, so Stephen Colbert just happens to throw out a line seriously saying, well, you know, we all appreciate what you guys do there at CNN. You always tell the truth, or you present it objectively. I think that he used the word objectively. And instantly, the whole audience of The Late Show, which is not a right-wing activist group, burst out in laughter because they know that CNN is the exact opposite, the polar opposite of an objective news source. I think we have the clip here. It's just It's so delicious to watch, and it wasn't supposed to be a laugh line, as Caitlin Collins mentioned.
Right. All right. Well, grab your fork and knives here, and let's watch this delicious clip.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. Oh, I know. CNN makes a. I know.
Was that supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be, but I guess it is.
I mean, ever the person to just sort of go with the audience, right? Like he could never admonish his audience. He'll just be like, well, I guess we are laughing at you now. I mean, it was so disingenuous what he was trying to do there. But at the same time, Joe, I mean, he nailed it. Elizabeth, what do you think? Did that get a chuckle out of you?
Yeah, of course it got a chuckle out of me. I mean, is Stephen Colbert really, he can't read the room, as they say. He's tone deaf. I mean, this guy should understand that very few people in America watch CNN anymore. And those that do, I don't know, or maybe as out of it as he is. Yeah, CNN is a joke. Everybody knows that they're left wing. They just pretend they're not. And that's why his people chuckled.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
But what's the name of the reporter that was with him? I'm sorry, I should know her name.
Caitlin Collins.
Yeah.
And she
what
was
a
famous
piece
for
of work she is. Go ahead.
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Well, she was, she became known to a lot of the right when she interviewed Trump at a town hall. Andy, what's your take on this and where we are with the fake news machine? It doesn't seem to be landing so hard, especially with an audience like Colbert's.
Yeah, that's hilarious that it broke through like that. As you said, that is not a conservative audience. That is a liberal-leaning audience that's there to go along with what the fake news says, but it was so implausible and so absurd for Stephen Colbert to say that CNN is objective that the audience could not restrain itself and had to burst into laughter.
and we know that we're poking fun at this. We're all doing this, but there is some seriousness to this because it still has a great effect on the average person who's tuning into these news outlets and stuff. And Glenn Beck, we have a clip of Glenn Beck talking about how CNN itself was grossly distorting some of the comments that were made between Donald Trump and Elon Musk during the X space. And let's play a bit of that clip.
Hey, I'm in my art studio and I'm working on redoing this for the art show. But I have to tell you, I just heard what CNN is reporting, and I can't take what's happening to our country and to the world. What is happening? I tried to post live on all the social media, couldn't do it because I had posted something from a source that they find dangerous, and they showed me the post, and it was me reposting a trailer for our documentary at the Blaze on COVID-19. So I'm now not trusted, I guess. It's unbelievable. But I'm watching CNN or listening to them a few minutes ago, and I watched the entire Trump thing last night, and I know what they said. I know what he said. And CNN just reported that Donald Trump and Elon Musk last night were making light of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and saying that it wasn't so bad. And Donald Trump was like, yeah, right. It took me a second to figure out how they even got there. Donald Trump was talking about how dangerous nuclear war is and how close we are to nuclear war. And he brought it up like 6 or 7 times. He's like, beyond everything else, nuclear war is what everyone should be concerned about because we will blow the entire planet up.
Yeah. So, and he goes on to explain what was being said during that interview. But the point being made there, of course, is that even if you didn't watch or listen to this X space, you would walk away from CNN thinking that, of course, once again, there's the newest hoax here that Trump is making fun of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
It's a slander. It's a libel. It's all that. It's no hoax. I guess you could say it is hoax. But if I was a leftist listening to CNN, I've got it here. I was just posting something about it on X, and you would just join right in because, very fine people, very not so bad nuclear bombs. This is just like he's a madman and incapable of thoughtfulness or humanity, compassion, which is the exact opposite of the truth, because the Obamas and the Bidens and the Harrises and the Walls, who couldn't care less about real people and lives and their individual stories. And you will see this, East Palestine, all this, but you will see consistently that firemen and first responders and people who have been victims of crime will say, oh yeah, Donald Trump came over to me. Oh, he hugged me. He called me. He helped me out. It is the inversion of reality. So they're being consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's look at this image here. This was tweeted out. This is of Time Magazine, August 2016 versus August 2024. And, I don't know how many subscribers Time still has, but their covers get more coverage than anything when they do stuff like this. Joe, I mean, it's so obvious to us, but do you think that there's an element in here that this still sways people when they see this propaganda?
Well, people that don't pay attention to the news could be swayed. People who are paying attention and have their brains turned on are not swayed, and they realize it for what it is. But this fake news business and the distortions is nothing new. They've been doing it for years. I remember years ago when I was in radio, this goes like back 20 or 30 years ago, there was a national program on NBC where they were doing a story about how, these cars, when they hit another car from behind or with their headlamps, the headlights actually explode. And when they tried to document it, they could not get the lights to explode. So what did they do? They put kerosene or gasoline inside the headlights so that when there was an impact, you could see the sparks fly on camera. This was a national program. Yeah, but this is exactly what they do. And we've heard all the horror stories about how they edit people's tapes when they call 9/11 to take out the key portions of what's being said to make it look like, he's Spanish and black, that kind of thing, to make you think something is completely different than the opposite. In the Trump thing, he said numerous times, the real threat is not global warming, it's nuclear warming.
Yeah, that was a good line.
Nuclear warming, because we're on the verge of nuclear annihilation with these pretenders in charge, these deceivers in charge. And that's what he was sounding the alarm about. And for CNN, also known as the Communist News Network or the Clinton News Network, just from years gone by.
Or the Kamala News Network, KNN.
So it's for them to do, it's like they're going out of their way to find something to twist to try to make them look bad. And they wonder why their ratings have tanked.
They wonder, yeah. I mean, they at this point they must realize that they also get, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but they get a lot more attention, it seems, from folks like us who like to highlight their absurdity. Josh, what is there to say about something that's like, at some point we got to just say, should we even be talking about any of these folks anymore because they're so irrelevant to reality?
Well, it definitely gives us comic relief to see what they're doing, but kind of like our thumbnail.
Says the doomer.
Yeah, well, I got to have a laugh. All right. I'm pretty dark on things, but I got to have a laugh. Yeah, like our thumbnail for this video is kind of like just this insane image of, it's not a real image, but an insane image of what they project like. But the truth is, there's like 50% of the country that watches this stuff and they buy it. And it's astounding to see.
Yeah. Andy, I think there's and we all know people like this who don't really pay attention as much as we do. We're the nerds in the room, right? But we have, the app, if you have the CNN app on your phone or the native news app from Google or Apple, those headlines come into your world and they instantly imprint on you, right? I mean, that's kind of like what we're up against here when it comes to the truth.
We are, and it does fool people, particularly young voters who are impressionable, who tend to believe what they hear on the liberal media. I used to teach a lot, and I had a student once in a course where I was talking about Star Wars, which was the name given by the liberals to Ronald Reagan's plan to put up in outer space a missile defense system that would basically detonate nuclear warheads in outer space. And I looked at this student who'd been in public school, and she was petrified by this. And I said, what's bothering you here? She said, well, that's going to cause an environmental problem in outer space if we have these nuclear explosions out there. So we can't harm the environment with this missile defense system that Ronald Reagan was proposing.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't do that, we're going to have the nuclear explosions right here in New York City, Washington, D.C.,
I remember that as if it was yesterday. And I remember people telling me that Ronald Reagan wanted to usher in the apocalypse. Do you remember that? that he was literally doing whatever he could to make God do the apocalypse. Like, well, he is the most powerful man on earth, so I guess he could do that. But the Star Wars thing, yeah, that was really big. And they laughed at Ronald Reagan so much, they made him out to be a Looney Tune over Star Wars.
Yeah, they did. Well, so this has been going on for a long time. We have an image here showing that that the entire media is running a misinformation campaign here against Trump. This here it says, what I just said, but they're running it also against Elon Musk as X continues to grow. These attacks on Elon and his companies will become more frequent because the media sees X as a direct competitor. Josh, I mean, this is. We know Elon has been in control of Twitter, which is now X, for almost 2 years now, right? Yeah. I mean, is that where we're at? We're coming on 2 years. Probably.
Coming up on 2 years.
Yeah, this is and those numbers, and we're going to get into the Trump space here in a minute, the X space with Trump here in more detail in a minute. But the numbers on there, I mean, they must be terrifying. The legacy media.
Yeah, there's like this weird duality. So there's like the big major media that looks like a dumb puppet, but then at the same time there's an X space with this arguably the smartest guy around, Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who's and they're having a frank conversation. And we got to remember that the whole thing was attacked by a denial of service attack that came in that stopped the stream from happening for 30 minutes or so. But it was successful, and they think 1 billion people saw it.
Incredible.
But that's a good segue to.
Well, it terrified the EU. The EU was terrified by this so much that they issued a letter telling Elon that he better not do this. They better not promote this, especially within their domain over there across the pond. But RFK called it out. So let's listen to RFK's reaction to the EU trying to commit election interference.
Yesterday, the European Union told Elon Musk that they were going to sanction him if he aired an interview with Donald Trump. This is something that is absolutely offensive to our democracy, absolutely offensive to the central value of Western democracy, which is freedom of speech. You had the White House and you had the Harris campaign, instead of expressing outrage about election interference by the European Union with our American election, silencing a former president, a former president who now is the nominee for one of the biggest political parties in our country, and they're silencing him. That is election interference, and you don't have the Democrats complaining about that, and that to me
let me
is
ask you
really
this last question.
offensive.
Yeah.
Why were they playing the music in?
I don't know. He was coming in or going. They're trying to get him off the air. I mean, that's Hannity, right? Who knows? So Andy, you've got a column up here over on WorldNet Daily talking about what Josh just mentioned here. That they crossed 1 billion views. I mean, how big was this X space?
That's a real number. The X space does reach that many people, and I think it's a game changer. Hopefully, in time for this election, that X is there with freedom of speech, and that's really all we need on our side to win is freedom of speech without the censorship by liberals. And now we have censorship by the European Union. And RFK Jr. is exactly right about that. What is this? The European Union is interfering with an interview in the United States by an American owner of X with the leading presidential candidate, Donald Trump. And here's the EU interfering with the broadcast of that interview. That's intolerable. And we need to assert freedom of speech here. Of course, WND is doing that on a daily basis. But you go back to the 60s, liberals were in favor of freedom of speech. But today, liberals are the biggest opponents of freedom of speech. And that's what we need to overcome to restore our country and get it back on the right path.
Yeah, we have some exclusive footage here of Trump and Elon learning about that this crossed 1 billion views Do we have this? This is remarkable footage here. Clip 1. Or the clip with Billy.
I know you got.
I'm trying to set up a joke here. It's actually a pretty funny video.
Well, it's now dead because if you know anything about.
Was that supposed to be a laugh line?
Is this the dancing video?
Yeah. I don't know if we have that. Do we have that, kid?
Well, you should have had it.
We should have had it. It was on my sheet. I got the sheet here. It said we had it. But if we don't,
jokes, Donald Trump was pretty witty in his interview with Elon Musk. I mean, Elon Musk is a funny guy. He's been on Saturday Night Live, but Donald Trump was actually funnier than Elon Musk in that interview. There were a couple jokes he made. One of them, Elon Musk didn't even catch, where Donald Trump said, Elon, you're not looking so well these days. Maybe it's because of your visit to Japan. You're talking about the nuclear fallout is not quite as dangerous as people say.
Fukushima, that's what they were talking about.
And Elon took it seriously. He's like, what are you talking? No, I'm okay. And Trump had to say, I was kidding, Elon. I was kidding about that.
Right.
He had another great joke dealing with nuclear war when he was talking about he had a good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. And Kim Jong-un, the communist dictator, informed Trump that he had his own red button on the desk from which he could launch missiles. And Trump responded, I told him I've got my own red button on my desk and mine actually works.
He says my red button is bigger and it works.
That's right. It's bigger and it works. That's great. All right, we have this footage. I got to promise we can show you here. But this is when they learned that they got 1 billion.
Oh man, they can do it.
They're looking slim and trim, folks. They're looking slim and trim.
I love social media now. I used to hate it, but I'm telling you, how could you ever have that much enjoyment without X?
It really is. And, there's a great account out there. I encourage everyone to follow Vigilant Fox. If you don't know Vigilant Fox on Twitter posts some excellent clips, excellent videos, reminding everybody, because the media likes to rabbit hole everything, right, Josh? They're trying to rabbit hole everything.
Yeah.
And when you follow accounts like WND or Vigilant Fox out there, I have no idea who's behind that account. But one of the
you make a really good point about that.
Expand on my great point, please.
Please let me expand on your good point. The point is that this news cycle and the rabbit holing and the round filing and the memory holing and all this stuff, it is a tactic. We can all see it as it's happening. How Biden ended up resigning, we were watching it before our eyes, but every time something happened, the president is almost assassinated. That's been old news since about a week since the attempted assassination, and nothing has been resolved. Nothing even close to resolution have we gotten to. And so the point is that news now is partially about reminding you and keeping you abreast of the stories that the establishment, corporate press wants you to forget. And they're redirecting you. So reminding people is a big part of what we do now. Also, I wanted to mention something about how the corporate media is being replaced. Not only, we started this back in 1997, WorldNet Daily, the first independent online news organization. It was Drudge and us. That was all. We started back then, and I think, made some big waves. Well, social media by Elon Musk, we should all pray every day for Mr. Musk, because what he did in restoring X to a free speech platform is incalculable. What that is doing for the world, not just America, the world. And I was just thinking, as you were setting something up, or one of you were talking, I was thinking about how, imagine the power that Americans who know what constitutionalism is, the rule of law, Republican government, representative government, and all of these truths that we hold dear, and of course our faith, how we can start to push it out to the world that because of Facebook and YouTube and all these other platforms, it's only censored, and CNN and obviously the others. But we could reach out to billions of people that don't even come close to having the truth because of that. So it is an opportunity. It's
absolutely
so powerful.
Yeah. So we want to keep sharing these clips here to keep that information flow going here. So this is some highlights from the X space here, and folks, jump in at any time. Andy, you can kind of walk us through some of this too. So let's watch this first clip on the talking about the assassination.
I mean, looking at the aerial views, that building would be like the #1 spot for a sniper. I mean, it's like if you were to pick like what is the favorite, so if the goal is to assassinate, what's your favorite spot? That building, the roof of that building would be #1.
That would have been the spot.
It's like you can ask for a better location. It's like #1.
That would have been the spot.
These are the questions that we got to keep asking, and there it is, Elon asking that question, highlighting that moment to now 1 billion people, right, guys?
If Pew Research would only do a poll of all snipers in the world and ask them what their opinion was, that the #1 spot you would pick, I think that we'd learn that it was.
Mm-hmm. Trump
absolutely
really nailed it.
Is my pick, and
Trump
sorry.
said it. Yeah,
I have a different take on that, guys, because as a doomer, I think that any competent sniper would say, I'm going to get my head blown off running across the roof and then jumping down. I'm going to be killed immediately. Any sane sniper, because that's
a good point.
It's inexplicable that all that happened as part of it. I mean, I don't want to unwind that whole thing because it's been a whole month.
Well, that's the big question. I mean, people were pointing this guy out for over like an hour, half an hour. I mean, everybody was saying, "Look, what's this guy doing?"
Right.
And so you're
Any
right.
real sniper would be like, "I'll be shot immediately."
Yeah.
No.
That's a good point.
That big missing element
I think
we
there's
don't
two
understand.
truths there, and they're opposite, but they're both true at the same time.
Exactly. You're right. Yeah. All right. Let's look at this other clip here. This is Trump's talking about the response after the assassination.
Your actions after that assassination attempt were inspiring. You instead of shying away from things, instead of ducking down, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying, "Fight, fight, fight." And I think that's, I mean, the president of the United States represents America, and I think that is America. That is strength under fire, and so that's a big part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as the president of the United States for having another term here. Is that was just incredibly inspiring. But I mean, what was it like for you?
Not pleasant. I have to be honest.
Pleasant.
I didn't know I had that much blood. The doctors later told me that the ear is a place that is a very bloody place.
Trumpisms.
If you're going to get hit. But in this case, it was probably the best alternative you could even think about, because it went at the right angle, and it was a hard hit. It was very, I guess you would say, surreal, but it wasn't surreal. I was telling somebody, you have instances like this, or like a lot less than this, where you feel it's a surreal situation, and I never felt that way. I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was at the ear.
Yeah.
And because it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, "Bullets, bullets!" Get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly, and we had bullets flying right over my head after I went down. So I'm glad I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter, and so it hit me at an angle that was far less destructive than any other angle. So that was the miracle. That was for those people that don't believe in God. I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have to, I'm a believer now. I'm more of a believer, I think, and a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually. But it was amazing that I happened to be turned just at that perfect angle, and all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart even
I mean,
more
maybe it's
now
a
than I
sign.
ever.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's a sign, you know.
it's an immigration sign.
You highlighted a serious issue.
Riveting, folks. It was absolutely riveting when you have a frank, you're having a frank conversation. I mean, Elon Musk is no Caitlin Collins, thank God. But can you imagine? I mean, we don't have to imagine. We've seen him be berated with questions before, but like that was riveting. Am I wrong?
It was quite riveting. In fact, the bit about the chart there, he said half jokingly, illegal immigration saved my life.
Oh, that was
At
funny.
one point in there, and he says he's actually going. He says I'm going to sleep with that chart from now on for a number of reasons.
He always says that now. He's been saying that since day one. I'm sleep every night with that chart. It's my favorite chart.
I think we're on that day that we need T-shirts with just the chart, right?
Yeah,
this chart will save lives. Yeah.
But Trump's comments were refreshingly candid about that assassination and was really endearing to hear what he said. And then he spoke about it with courage that a lot of us, I think, maybe would not do. We would just say, I don't want to talk about it. But he opened up about it. And then what really caused the hair on the back of my head to stand up was near the end, he said that his son had commented to him that the sniper taking a shot from that close in, the assassin, that close in, it was like a 2-foot putt. Like a 2-foot putt. That's how close that assassin was with him with that rifle. And to hit him, get that close in was like a 2-foot putt. And yet Trump was not critical of the Secret Service allowing that to happen. He when pressed, he said, yeah, he never should have gotten that close. He admitted that. Everybody knows that. But overall, Trump was really quite complimentary of the courage of the Secret Service agents and the ones around him. I mean, they stood up and they risked their lives. So it was a tremendous Q&A there with Elon Musk on that assassination attempt. Priceless, really, to go back and listen to it again. I don't think anyone else could speak about it in an event like that the way Trump has.
And that is the perfect point, because the reaction from the press was, I saw headlines like, oh, Trump rambled on for an hour. It was like this rambling, slurring his speech. And I'm thinking to myself, like,
what? This man has never had a drink in his life, I don't think. And I mean, what do they think? He's taking drugs. He won't even smoke. I
don't know.
Is wrong with slurring his speech?
You can't win with these people. If he only was on for 10 minutes, they would have said, oh, he could only last 10 minutes. He's like,
oh, did you see the Kamala Harris post about how these two rich old white men or whatever, and they're just sitting around, and they can't even get a Zoom call or something like this on? I'm thinking Kamala Harris couldn't get a wall or she could not handle one project she was ever assigned, and Elon Musk got 1 billion people to watch two guys sitting around talking. Well, two very special guys.
And Kamala, and so Kamala is busy stealing policies from Trump now, right? Let's listen to this next clip on the hypocrisy of stealing the no tax on tips.
Would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration, but we also need to shut down illegal immigration, and especially unvetted illegal immigration, because that's not the same as saying that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border. Does that accurately represent your position?
I say it very simply. They have to come in legally. They have to be checked.
Yeah.
Because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible. No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago. And by the way, they had just the opposite. They had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were assigned to go get waitresses and caddies and all of this on tips. They have a policy. They had a policy that they were really going to go after you, and were really harassing people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says, she comes out with what I said. which I think is terrible. And I think it's also hitting them very hard. These people are fake. Now they're also saying they did a good job on the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you hear 12 million, 13. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country, many coming from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions, or a bigger version of that is insane asylums, and many are terrorists.
These people are fake. I mean, okay. Two points here that I'd love to hear your reaction on. One, again, the command of the issues, the ability to articulate everything, and then also the facts on the ground. What is Kamala doing, stealing these policies after she was a tie-breaking vote against them, in the past few years? Andy, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Trump went on after the clip that you just aired, and he said many of these illegal immigrants are non-productive people. And I had not heard that expressed in that way before. And Trump really nailed it, where he said, you've got the criminals, you've got the terrorists, we know they're coming in, they're not vetted, and that's terrible, and that's bad enough. But he also said many of them are just simply non-productive. They don't want to work. They won't work. And what that means is they get onto our entitlement programs and they soak up billions and can be trillions of dollars that we don't have anymore to spend on these non-productive people. And with
I'm glad you brought that up, Andy, because I thought that was a really good, I took so many notes, but I didn't have time to transcribe them and organize them. And that was a point that really hit home with me because I thought it was just an excellent way to put it. They're non-productive people. They're not going to work or work full time. They won't fully support their families. They're coming from a different way of life and a different culture. And often you can turn people around in their understanding of what a work ethic is and rule of law and personal responsibility and all that. But you can't bring 20 million people in and try to do that. What you bring in is the right people with the right qualifications that have a chance to get ahead. But people who don't speak English, who have never, held a full-time job, and have no real inclination to work, they don't belong here. And I don't care if they haven't raped and murdered and, whatever. They don't have to be gang rapists. I don't want them anyway.
Yeah. All right, we got a couple more clips we want to get through to show you folks at home there. So let's do this one. This was about a warning about losing our country.
And I saw an ad by Kamala saying how she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years,
Yeah, no.
we have 20 million people poured in. It's a terrible
Yeah,
thing.
I think this, frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more years of open borders, and it's going to be even worse with another 4 more years, it's going to be even worse than it's been for the past 3.5 years. I'm not sure we've got a country.
You don't have a country left. Elon, if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. We think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, the 4. But it's not that. It's everywhere. They're coming in from everywhere. And I had to stay in Mexico.
Yeah, I think this is a super important point. Like people, it's like basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was from Mexico.
No, Mexico less.
It's just the border. It's just the border with Mexico. But the people coming in, it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything in the US.
We're already overwhelmed, Elon. We're overwhelmed.
Wow. I mean, what an amazing discussion, Josh. These guys are just, you're sitting right here. I'm just like locked in on you. I'm bringing Josh in. No,
it's a good point.
This discussion was so frank and it was so real. And the way that they were the way they were interacting with each other and being so personal. Elon, no, it's worse than you were already there.
Yeah, and a lot of the footage we have of the border crossing, it's very strange. I had to check a lot of it because what we were seeing like 80 Chinese people, and then like islanders, people from Africa, like 80 coming across the border. I'm like, is this right? I don't. But so it's all of Earth is making their way towards this space, all by the plan. But I wanted to mention a new thing. There's a new racial term. We should pay attention to it. And that racial term is productive. Any minute now, that's going to be banned. Since now we've defined
no productive people.
Productive people is another racial slur you should avoid at home, please, folks.
Wow. What do you think? What do you think, Joe? Is all of Earth coming to America?
Well, America is the place that everybody wants to come, whether it's to be a part of the American dream or to destroy it. I think the people coming across today, as you mentioned, from all of Earth, they're destroyers. And, it's another example of opposite world where when they say the border is secure, or we've done a great job securing the border, they've done the most despicable job of it, or the economy has been the greatest in however many years. The economy is the worst, or the past election was the cleanest, purest election we ever had. It was the worst election, stolen election, as millions of Americans are now coming to realize. So we are living in opposite world. It's a world in opposition to the truth. And, this whole thing about free speech and protecting free speech on X, it's not just about free speech. It's about truth, the truth getting out there, because they are freely telling lies over and over on all these networks and all these major newspapers out there, the mainstream media. They are liars and deceivers. It's what they do full time. That's why they get along so well with Hollywood, because, those actors and actresses are professional liars. They pretend to be other people for a living. So it's all about lying and deception, and we're living in opposite world.
Yeah, I've always heard the claim that like Washington D.C. is the same thing as Hollywood, but with ugly people. They're just
there you go,
and they're all liars, and they're all pretending.
There you go, Matt.
Yeah. All right. I haven't seen this clip. I'm sure I'll remember it when they talked about it. But this is where they're discussing Biden's IQ. I'm curious.
And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disastrous. Sure. Hey, look, just in the two armies, you lost 500,000 people.
Yeah. So, I mean, and again, he's so mean, right, Elizabeth? He's so mean.
Oh, I know. You know what? Again, I keep giving my little analogies. CEOs break faces. They pound on desks. They yell. They swear a lot. Every CEO that you think out there does not swear. Actually, the weird thing is my husband never swears. So the one exception. But most CEOs swear. And they're hardcore. And that's why they are leading companies. Anyway, this guy, I don't care if he's mean. The truth is that for instance, with the war in Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine, so 500,000 people are are dead. 6.5 million people are refugees all over the world. And nobody cares about that. And nobody says, ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. This is where the insanity of this world is so crazy. Israel, with an existential threat that they can actually defeat the enemy and put it behind them once and for all. And we don't have to put any boots on the ground, and neither does NATO or anybody else. And they want a ceasefire before they can be victorious. And then I just want to make a statement about this one issue with regard to the border. And I know it's not on the show prep, but for me finding out that Catherine Herridge, she just released an investigative report a couple of days ago that the Customs and Border Patrol, CBP, They are tasked, Homeland Security is tasked for every single person that they encounter to be DNA tested. And she has just reported that the whistleblowers have revealed that 70% of or more of all the people coming across the border are not DNA tested. And they literally could have saved thousands of lives if they had been DNA tested. And so this is the craziness. It's not mean. It is about the borders, and it is about the wars. And
well, we keep asking
Trump.
the question. We keep asking the question: who's running the country? I mean, I feel like we're a ship lost at sea, and the captain is slumped over the wheel, and the door's locked. And November 5th is when we find the key. Folks, I want to wrap it up here, but let's go around the horn here and just kind of like, where are we headed with this? I mean, what is the outlook? I mean, who would have thought a month ago that we'd be sitting here with an assassination attempt and Biden swapped out for Kamala? Andy, you've been such a great guest to be on here today with us. I want to shoot it to you.
I appreciate that. I think in that interview between Musk and Trump, the concept came up a number of times that we're not going to have a country anymore if this election goes to Kamala and the Democrats. And I think that's a very important point for everybody to think about and let that sink in. We may lose our country in this election. It's not just whether the good guys or the bad guys win. We may lose our country. And it's not only Trump who said that, but Elon Musk said that. Now, he's a former Democrat, and he sees this coming, that we may lose our country. So I hope everyone gives that a lot of thought and works on getting the vote out so that we can save our country.
Yeah, well put. Joe, what can we expect?
Well, I'm going to go beyond that, because they said it's not just our country that's at risk, it's civilization. We are at a crossroads for the survival of the human race here, because if the United States goes down, like, we're the only country holding back this onslaught of evil that is about to envelop the world. So civilization as we know it is hanging in the balance with this election. And that's why Elon says, he calls himself a moderate Democrat, but he realizes if Trump is not elected, we're done for, not just as a country, but as a people. I mean, that is some serious stuff here riding on this election. So I know there's a lot of people out there, including Christians, who say, oh, I don't need to vote. I shouldn't vote. I'm just part of the kingdom of God and that kind of thing. We're not called to take part. But yes, you are. You sit there every day of your life taking part with the choices you make in everyday life. But when the rubber hits the road, you're going to sit out on the most important election that could, it's a life or death situation we're coming to. So I urge everybody, especially Christians, to get off their duff and make the choice for life.
Yeah, thank you. Elizabeth, how important it is, what can you say that inspires people to make sure they go out and vote and to bring other people to vote?
It is far worse than you think. We are in a danger that is existential. As Elon says, and most of us, it's civilizational. It is the forces of darkness. If you are a Christian or a Jew, you know that there are the forces of darkness in this world, in the supernatural, and they are working their evil wiles to destroy this country, because they have to destroy Israel first. That's very important to them, the order of events. Then and Europe is on its way, very, very close, and the United States. But they only need to destroy the United States and Israel. That's for the Islamists. The communists and socialists and leftists, the woke mob, they want to destroy the very same Western civilization. If Donald J. Trump doesn't get into office, and if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz do, they are the most hardcore totalitarians. When you see videos of Wisconsin National Guard or cops going down neighborhood streets, shooting at people with very painful paintballs to get back inside because they're not allowed to get on their front porch, because what the dog outside or the neighbor across the street might get COVID from them. You know, you've moved into totalitarian land, and that's what America will be.
Elizabeth, I think you've outdoomed the doomer.
Yeah,
Josh,
that's not possible.
It's not possible. Okay.
In fact, I'd love to just say a last thing. I often think about like what it felt like to be in 1938 for our grandparents or great grandparents, and I feel that way a little bit, where we're kind of looking at the future and saying, what's going to happen? It's our turn now to do that. I didn't know if that would happen, so I want to tell everybody that this message that I'm giving you right now is brought to you by a very important thing we're going to need to have, and that is, if we could just bring that up, that's canned food, guys. Monday we talked about wood. Wood is good to have. Now I'm going to talk to you about canned food. All right, it's not an official sponsor. I see some Bush's baked beans on there, but everybody, canned food, okay?
Canned food, baby.
Be smart. Because I mean, like, yeah, we're waiting on the election, and hopefully that's going to come off great. But in my doomer sense, let's be prepared.
Let's be prepared. And of course, as always, subscribe on Rumble.
Yeah, everybody, it's so important to go to Rumble, subscribe there, please. It's important that we also tell you it's free. I don't know why people would think you got to pay for it, but subscribe to Rumble, like our videos there. This is likely the only place you're going to see them aside from X in the near future. We absolutely expect censorship to come from Facebook and YouTube. We're already seeing it. As an example, Tucker Carlson had a video that he just did with Dave Smith. And in that video, for the YouTube version, they had to totally cut out a section about COVID. And just said, this section's been censored.
Wow.
Go to another platform to see it. And that's what we expect more of that. So Rumble, everybody.
Wow. Incredible.
And canned food.
Rumble and canned food. That's your mission for today, folks. Thank you so much for joining us on behalf of everybody here. Thank you for watching. God bless.